Hi, very good morning. Today we'll be discussing on QRS complex, how you read regarding a QRS complex. So again, you will see only what you look for and you look for what you recognize and what you know and you will remember only what you understand. We'll try to make it as simple as possible, but sometimes it may be little tough, and if you find it, you can contact me and ask me regarding that. So I'm Dr. Janak Patel. So I'm going to talk regarding QRS complex. Now you know very well QRS complex. First negative wave is Q wave. First positive wave is R wave. Second negative wave is S wave. And complete complex we call as a QRS complex. So QRS complex, whenever you want to read regarding QRS complex, first thing what you have to make out whether QRS complex is present or not present, or we call absent, because in some of the condition QRS complex is not present. Say as for example stroke edema attack, QRS complex is not seen. Sinus arrest, QRS complex is not seen. Ventricular arrest, QRS complex is absent. So in such condition, when QRS complex is absent, you can't comment regarding QRS complex. But say if QRS complex is present, we'll be mentioning little bit regarding when the QRS complex is absent at the end of this lecture. So whenever the QRS complex is present, first you have to look at the components of QRS complex. That is Q wave, R wave, S wave. And if there is a second positive wave, we call as R dash. Then we look at the voltage, or what we call as the amplitude. Then you look at the duration of the QRS complex, whether it is normal, that is less than 0.12, we call less than 3 small square, or it is more than 3 small square, that is wide QRS complex. And then we mentioned regarding relation to P wave, PR interval, and regularity to find out the rhythm of that particular ECG, and that you can best identify in a rhythm strip. So now we start with the first part, what we call if QRS complex is present. Always look at the component of QRS complex: voltage, amplitude, duration, wide, PR interval, etc. Now we are starting with that particular part. You can see here, this is the first negative wave, we call it a Q wave, and this Q wave is because of the septal activation. Then you got a positive wave, we call it a R wave, and then from that isoelectric line, whatever goes below, we call as S wave. So this is S wave, and where the S wave ends and ST segment starts, this is ST segment, this is called J point. And then you got a small positive wave. This QRS complex corresponds to what we call as a ventricular depolarization, and this T wave corresponds to ventricular repolarization. This ST segment is a period between D and re polarization. So this QRS complex corresponds to ventricular depolarization, and as far as the cardiac cycle is concerned, it is ventricular systole. Now naming, we already told you the first positive complex above the isoelectric line we call as R wave. So first positive followed by the second negative we write down as a capital R, and if S wave is small, we write down small s. If first positive wave is small, second negative wave following a R wave is bigger than R wave amplitude, then we write down R small and S capital. Like this we name all those, First negative wave, second positive wave is taller, so we write down that as capital. First negative wave is Q and second negative wave is S. If first negative wave is tall and R is also tall, both are nearly equal, so we write down both in capital, QR. If there is only negative wave, there is no positive wave, you write down as QS. If there is a small r wave, then you write down small r but capital Q. Then if second R wave is taller, then you write down second R capital and first two, that is RS, R dash pattern, that is too small, and then this is a bigger one. So this is how we try to label it different way. Okay, right. This is same thing given here. Single positive, capital R. Small positive, we write down small r. Small q followed by a big R, that is capital R. That way we try to write down all this. Just go through that. It will be very helpful because we'll be using those particular terminology every now and then. Now first we are going through what we call as a Q wave. So the first negative component of a QRS complex is called as a Q wave. Now this is because of the septal activation. This portion is because of the septal activation. It is normal in lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVL and V5 to V6. What is normal? As far as duration is concerned, 1 small square, and amplitude is concerned, 1 small square. So 0.04 second as far as duration is concerned, height is concerned or amplitude is concerned, 1 millivolt. If you see this in a two contiguous leads, it is normal. What is non-pathological? Non-pathological Q wave will be there if it is present in other than V1 to V3, in all lead except V1 to V3. So if this leads contains Q wave and if it is more than this, that is we call more than 0.04 second, we call more than 2 small square and more than 2 small square in height. So more than 2 millivolt and more than 0.08 second, you consider that as pathological. So deeper Q wave, that is amplitude wise, and broader Q wave are pathological. So lead 3 and AVR can have a large Q wave, but that is taken as normal. So depth, that is amplitude, more than 0.04 second is considered as significant pathological. That is depth more than 2 millimeter height is considered as pathological, or 25% of R wave or 1/4 of the R wave amplitude is also considered as pathological. Now you will see here how exactly the Q wave is being produced. You see this Q wave production. Again, this will be shown again. So Q wave is because of the septal activation. So in lead 1, it is of a small amplitude. I'll go back again. You can see this production. But if it is very deep, you can see here, if the Q wave is such deep, it is pathological, whether lead 2 or lead 3. So again repeating, if Q wave is deeper than 1 small square and width wise, duration wise also more than 1 small square, it is considered as pathological. So first negative deflection in a QRS complex, if it is more than 2 small square in deep and 2 small square in wide, more than 1 small square, we consider that as pathological. Or it is also said that more than 25% of the height of a R wave should be considered. You can see this how deep it is. This is almost 5 small square, another 5, 11 to 12 small square. So this is markedly deep. This is 100% pathological. Now in which condition you get that? So classical example of a deep Q wave and broad Q wave is acute myocardial infarction, that is acute onset of myocardial infarction, or It is also seen as a deep wave like this in case of a healed myocardial infarction. But this will be present in a STEMI. In a non-STEMI, you don't get a Q wave infarct. So in a non-STEMI, you don't have a Q wave. This is only present in a STEMI. So acute myocardial infarction of a STEMI variety will show you a Q wave during acute stage and also during a healed stage. Another condition where you will get a Q wave, which is quite prominent, is hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. It is also labeled as idiopathic hypertrophic subaortic stenosis. We call HOCM or we call IHSS. So these two conditions are very, very common. There are other conditions also. And if even Q wave is taller or deeper than the amplitude of R wave, that is also pathological. Now you can see this is, we have mentioned many other conditions. You can see here the deep Q wave, almost more than 13 to 14 small square. And you can see here the width, it is more than 2 small square. So if you get such deep Q wave, this is QS segment. This is definitely in favor of an acute MI. And you can see an ST elevation. You can see that J point has been elevated. So this is an ST elevation with T wave inversion. It is myocardial infarction. This is in favor of an acute myocardial infarction. Another classical example, we have already told you that hypertrophic cardiomyopathy or even infiltrative variety of a myocardial involvement. In some cases of rotation of the heart, we call extreme clockwise or counterclockwise rotation. And if upper limb leads, that is right arm and left arm, are placed on lower limbs and lower limb leads are placed in upper limb, you will get a deep Q wave. So this you should try to find out if there is no lead placement error. Always before you label as a pathological Q wave, you must try to rule out a lead placement error, because when by mistake, if you attach upper limb lead to the lower limb and lower limb leads are attached to the upper limb, you may demonstrate a opposite type. So you will demonstrate a deep Q wave instead of R wave. So try to remember that. So in that case, you might get a deep Q wave. So again repeating two classical conditions, acute myocardial infarction, particularly we call STEMI and healed STEMI. In those two conditions, you will get that Q wave. Now you can see here how exactly the pathological Q wave is produced. Because of this infarction, you get Q wave appearance, because this is a dead tissue. So dead tissue will give rise to the appearance of a Q wave, because this is dead, does not produce any electrical, and this produces a Q wave because of septal activation. So the Q wave will appear deep enough. And you can see here, this is pathological Q wave. And you have got an ST segment elevation with T wave inversion. Again, you will see that there is an ST segment elevation with T wave inversion. This is 100% pathological. Now you can see here how Q wave evolves. This is normal ECG. But if a person gets a chest pain in an early stage, when a person gets an acute chest pain, T wave may be taller. You can see here the T wave is tall. If you get the amplitude of T wave more than half of R, this is significant. And particularly when a person is having a severe chest pain, which is suggestive of an ischemic heart disease. As it advances, you will see now a small Q wave is becoming deeper and ST segments gets elevated, or we call J point is being elevated. So this is the height of ST segment elevation. So ST segment is elevated more than 2 millimeter, 100% in favor of an acute MI. And as it advances further, you can see that Q wave is becoming deeper and deeper. ST segment is elevated, and now T wave becomes inverted. See this inversion of the T wave. Now as the healing starts, Q wave will become deeper and deeper. ST segment will come down, say from this height, it has come down here. T wave is still inverted. Then you get the deep Q wave. ST segment nearly becomes isoelectric. T wave is still inverted. And when it completely heals, Q wave persists. ST segment is isoelectric and T wave becomes upright. So when the ST segment becomes isoelectric, persistence of a deep Q wave and T wave becoming upright, this will call as a held infarct, and that is the final result what you will get because of fibrosis. But if this persists, say deep Q wave is there, ST segment is still elevated and T wave is inverted, even after many months where you are supposed to have this pattern, instead of this pattern, even after 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, if you get this particular type of an ECG, you will call that as a ventricular aneurysm. So do remember this. If you understand this very well, you will be able to identify that, and that you can identify if you got a previous ECG. Again, you can see here, there is a very deep Q wave, very deep Q wave in lead 1, lead 3. You can see here there is no Q wave at all in V1, and there is a small Q wave in V6. Such things will happen very classical in case of idiopathic hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So in idiopathic hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, lead 1 will have a very deep Q wave, and lead 3 can also have a deep Q wave. But Q wave will be seen in V5, V6, which will be very small, but it will be seen markedly prominent in lead 1. So if you see a lead 1 septal Q wave very deep, it is in favor of a septal hypertrophy, or we call idiopathic hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, we call HOCM, or we call IHSS. And voltage criteria wise, you will get evidence in favor of left ventricular hypertrophy. So this will be what will be seen in a case of a septal hypertrophy. So lead 1 will have a prominent deep Q wave. If lead 1 is having prominent deep Q wave and it is not so prominent in V5, V6, always suspect hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Now there is another condition where if there is no Q wave, we call loss of normal Q wave. Now where you get a loss of normal Q wave? If Q wave is absent in V5, V6 and QRS complex is broad, then always suspect left bundle branch block. And in that particular condition, you will have a RS RDS pattern, broad QRS with RS RDS pattern and absence of Q wave. It is in favor of left bundle branch block, where you will have almost no Q wave, or we call loss of normal Q wave. So if there is an absence of small septal Q wave in V5, V6, you should consider left bundle branch block. So you can see here there is no Q wave at all. So that is in favor of a left bundle branch block. Do consider that. Now we go to the amplitude, or we call as a voltage. For a voltage, usually limb leads are seen. Also you can see for QRS complex voltage, you can see a chest leads to identify some of the conditions. So this I have already discussed, and I have shown this slide in a previous ECGs, that is we call voltage. So if any particular chest leads shows a QRS complex amplitude more than 25 small square, it is definitely considered as a high voltage. And if amplitude in limb leads is less than 5 millimeter, or in a chest lead less than 10 millimeter, we'll consider that as a low voltage. And if it is more than 5 millimeter in limb leads, more than 10 millimeter in chest lead, but it is less than 25 small square in chest leads and less than 15 small square in limb leads, usually we consider that as a normal. So there are some conditions where there will be low voltage. Classical example we have already discussed before: obesity, emphysema. These are all non-cardiac conditions. So obesity, emphysema, COPD, etc. are non-cardiac conditions, and you will get a low voltage ECG. While in a case of a pericardial effusion, pericardial tamponade, constrictive pericarditis, severe congestive heart failure, you will get low voltage ECG. In a case of a myxedema also, because of secondary pericardial effusion, you will have a low voltage. While amplitude of a QRS complex taller than 25 millimeter, and that will be best identified in a chest leads, you will get in a left ventricular hypertrophy, right ventricular hypertrophy. And if QRS complex is broad and tall. Either it can be left bundle branch block or right bundle branch block. And in a ventricular complex like complete heart block, AV dissociation, or in a ventricular rhythm pattern, ventricular premature beat, idioventricular rhythm, accelerated idioventricular rhythm, ventricular tachycardias, etc. While you get alternate ECG, normal voltage ECG followed by a small voltage ECG, alternating, that is called electrical alterance, that will be very classical in a cardiac tamponade and sometimes in a case of a severe congestive heart failure. We'll have some ECG, we'll show you that some ECGs. So we are looking at the QRS complex voltage, that is mainly the R wave voltage. So again this is repeating that in a limb leads, normal voltage is more than 5 millimeter. If it is less than 5 millimeter, it is low voltage. And in a chest lead less than 10 millimeter, it is considered as a low voltage. So another examples is generalized anasarca, pneumothorax, pleural effusion. These are respiratory other conditions. We already mentioned regarding pericardial effusion, obesity, emphysema, hypothyroidism, and even if there is an infiltration of a myocardium by amyloid, sarcoidosis, etc., you will have a low voltage QRS complex. These are many more conditions: amyloidosis, scleroderma, hemochromatosis, cardiomyopathy, hypothyroidism, hypothermia. You will have a low voltage. These are all the different conditions. You can see here the amplitude is less than 5 small square. In limb leads, it is in favor of a low voltage. And if it is a chest lead, it should be less than 10 millimeter. So this was seen in a pericardial effusion. This is again a pericardial disease, pericardial effusion. You can see the voltage markedly low. And even in a chest lead, they are less than 10 small square. Good number of. But here, this is of a good voltage. Now you can see here, after fluid has been removed, the amplitude increases, the R wave voltage increases. You can see there is an increase in R wave voltages. You can see that. This is in case of a pericardial disorders. And this is electrical alternance. A good voltage, low voltage. Good voltage, low voltage. Alternate. So it is called electrical alternance. Again, same thing you can see here in a, we call as a rhythm strips. You can see normal voltage, low voltage, normal voltage, low voltage. This you will see in a massive pericardial effusion, cardiac tamponade, sometime also in a case of a constrictive pericarditis. You will see this, classical in case of a cardiac tamponade. Now we go to what we call as a R wave. We already told you the amplitude of the R wave is more than 10 millimeter in chest leads and more than 5 millimeter in limb leads. Usually, if you look at the QRS complex in a chest leads, which is most commonly we look for in that particular leads. So from V1 onwards, the R wave will become a taller and taller, and S wave will become a shorter and shorter. So in a V1, R is bigger than S. Slowly the R wave height becomes taller and taller. So in a V1, R wave is short, S wave is deeper. As you go towards V5, V6, R wave is the tallest, V5, V6, R wave is the tallest, and S wave is the shortest. This is classical. And usually in a V3 and V4, you will have R wave equal to S wave, we call transition zone. This is normal. But if you get a tall R wave in V5, V6, we usually use the word late transition zone or leftward transition zone, means it is shifting towards the left ventricular side, that is V5, V6, or we use the word clockwise transition zone. And because there is a R wave progression is very poor, so it is also called as a poor R wave progression, or we call posterior QRS complexes. And this will be characteristic in case of a person who has got a LVH, incomplete left bundle branch block, Classical left bundle branch block will have a broad QRS complex, while in incomplete left bundle branch block it will be a narrow QRS complex. Even in case of an anterior wall infarct, you will have a R wave progression will be poor. So this is one of the criteria where you identify by looking at the R wave progression. In a COPD, the heart is vertical, so in that case also the R wave progression is poor and you will have a shift towards the left side. And even in a hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy also, you will have a tall R wave in V5, V6 and you will have a poor R wave progression. While in case of a tall R wave in V1, more than S wave, you will get in an early transition zone, or we call rightward transition zone, or we call counterclockwise transition zone, or reverse R wave progression, or we also use a terminology called as the anterior QRS complex. This you will get in RVH, incomplete right bundle branch block, where QRS complex will be broad, posterior wall myocardial infarction, or we call it the true posterior wall MI. In case of a WPW syndrome of type A variety, where you get a broad QRS complex with delta wave, Brugada syndrome, and sometime even in case of a dextrocardia. And don't forget electrolyte misplacement. So if V1 electrode is placed at V5 or V6, you will have tall R wave in V1. This is sometime by mistake, if you place a V1 electrode at V5 or V6, you will have a tall R wave in V1. That can happen. You always try to rule out that first and then look for all these other conditions. So this here you can see there is a small r, deep S, r becomes taller and taller. In V3, r is equal to S wave, then r becomes taller, S becomes shorter and shorter. By the time you go to the V6, there is a small Q wave, there is tall R wave, hardly there is an S wave. This is called transition zone. What you will see, this is normal. Now if you see here, the R wave progress. From V1 slowly the R wave is gradually increasing. This is we call normal, and transition zone is either in V3 or in V4. But if you get R wave equal to S wave in V1 or V2, we call early transition zone or rightward shift or counterclockwise, or we call early transition zone. And if there is no R wave in V1, V2, and slowly there is a small R wave in V3, V4, and there is a transition zone in V5, V6, we call as a late leftward or clockwise. This is very important because if you look at this properly, you will be able to identify good number of conditions. So here you can see this is normal. There is no progress, so this is called poor R wave progression. And this is R wave is slowly becoming less, and transition zone is going towards left side. So the transition zone is somewhere here. So this is called reverse R wave progression. So this helps you to identify some of the conditions. So try to look at that particular, where is the R wave progression. So again, early R wave or early transition zone or anterior QRS, classical in RBBB, RVH, and posterior MI, whether it may be old or acute variety. So it is called early, rightward, counterclockwise, reverse R wave progress, or anterior QRS, where R wave is bigger than S wave in V1. This will be also in case of a posterior MI, or there is a shift to the right, we call it in RVH. And you can see here, there is no R wave at all. There is a small R wave in V3, then the R wave will become taller, and you will have a tallest R wave in V5, V6. But here, the transition zone is going towards this side. So this is called poor R wave progression, late or delayed transition, or posterior QRS. And this you will get in LVH, anteroseptal MI, or even in case of an RVMI, left bundle branch block. These are the three groups. So these are the words which are being utilized, where R wave is taller than S wave in V5 and V6, and R wave is not present in V1, V2. that you will see in this particular group we call as a anteroseptal MI or RVMI. So also you will get that in case of a heart rotation, particularly in COPD, anterior myocardial infarction, dilated cardiomyopathy, etc. So this is, if you understand well, you will be able to identify. Now this is how you identify a poor RVA progression. You can see here, this is a normal. V1, slowly V2, you can see in V3, almost this is becoming transitional zone. In V4, R wave is exactly equal to S wave. While if you see here, there is hardly any R wave. You can see a very small R wave. V4 also. Now in V5, you get R wave equal to S wave. So transition zone is shifted to left side. This is called poor R wave progression. Hence, in this, it will be very common in LVH, in anterior wall infarcts, etc. Do remember that LBBB, all those conditions. So poor R wave progression will be very common in LVH. It will be common in a complete left bundle branch block or incomplete left bundle branch block. Even you can see in a left anterior hemi block or left anterior fascicular block, anterior or anteroseptal MI in COPD, and even in case of a cardiomyopathy, you will have this particular dilated cardiomyopathy. Now, we'll show you what you will get in a R wave in case of a LVH and RVH. This is V1, this is V6. In normal person, V1 will show you small R wave, deep S wave. And in V6, you will have a small Q wave followed by a R wave, and hardly there will be an S wave. This is normal ECG. But in case of an LVH, you can see that here, the R wave is small, the S wave is much deeper, markedly deep. This is because this has undergone hypertrophy. And this corresponds to right side lead. And this is left side hypertrophy. So it will give a deep S wave. And in case of a V6, this is corresponding to left side. So we'll get a very tall R wave. And there is hardly any S wave. So this is suggestive of a LVH. So RS of V1 plus R of V5, V6 more than 35 small square is definitely in favor of LVH. Well, if you see here, this is corresponding. V1 corresponds to R, means right ventricle. So here you will see a tall R wave, a small S wave. R wave is usually bigger than S wave. Or sometimes you get only R wave, there is no S wave. And here sometimes you get a small Q wave followed by a R wave. This will be in a V1. While in a V6, there will be a small negative wave after QRS complex. We call it a deep S wave in QRS complex. It is suggestive of RVH. And this R wave in V1 will be more than 7 small square. It will be favoring RVH. So this is the difference between LVH and RVH. In left ventricular hypertrophy, you get left axis deviation. V1 and V2, you will have a deep S wave. V5 and V6, you will have a tall R wave. Addition of S and R will be more than 35. In AVR, you will have a R wave more than 12 small square. You will have a secondary ST depression in V1 or V2. And mostly you see deep S wave in V1, R wave in V5 and V6 in LVH, and R wave may be taller than even 25 millimeter. So this will be in favor of LVH. While in a RVH, right axis deviation, V1 will have a tall R wave and V6 will have S wave. Addition of R plus S will be more than 10 millimeter, and R wave taller than 7 millimeter in V1. Sometime you might see even RS R dash pattern, which is an incomplete right bundle branch block. Secondary ST depression in V1 and V2. And usually you see in cor pulmonale, or we call COPD, and you can see also in case of pulmonary stenosis, mitral stenosis, etc. You will have a pulmonary hypertension producing a RVH, and associated with that you can have even a right atrial enlargement pattern, which will show you P pulmonar. So this is a high voltage criteria for QRS complex in LVH and RVH. Please go through. So this is that repetition again, what we have given you before, that R plus S of V1 and V5, V6 more than 11, R wave in V1 more than 7, R is bigger than S in V1 more than 1, means ratio of R to S more than 1, and if a right axis deviation, it is in favor of right ventricular hypertrophy. Additional criteria, sometime you can have a small q with R wave in V1, or you can have a S1Q3 pattern, means S1 in V1, sorry, lead 1 and Q in lead 3. If you get S1, S2, S3 pattern, all these are in favor of right ventricular hypertrophy. And if you get a P pulmonar, again it is in favor of right ventricular hypertrophy. And this is a diagram or ECG what shows you. You can see in a V1 only. This is almost 17 small square, straightforward in favor of RVH. And you will see a small S wave in V5, V6. So this is RVH. And even in AVR, you will get a R wave top. You can see a tall R wave in V1, V2. And there is an ST segment, secondary ST segment changes. And you can make out here also that there is atrial hypertrophy. Atrial hypertrophy. You can see this P pulmonar. P pulmonar. Almost height of a P wave is equal to QRS complex. So this is P pulmonar. And roughly, if you see here, this is RS RDS pattern. And this is incomplete right bundle branch block pattern. Because QRS complex is not broader than 3 small square. So this is incomplete right bundle branch block. All these are in favor of RVH. Again, you can see here, there's a QR pattern. And R wave height is almost 13 small square. Almost come to 15 small square. So this is straightforward. We don't require any other criteria. Even in AVR, you can see the height is bigger. So this is, and in V5, V6, you will get an S wave. Very typical of RVH. Again, you can see here, QR pattern. Again, you have got a tall R wave in AVR. And V5, V6 has got S wave, RVH. LVH criteria we have already discussed before. This is how you going to give the points and try to identify whether it is a left ventricular hypertrophy. Simple most criteria we have already given. You will have a tall R wave in V5, V6 and deep S wave in V1, V2. If you add those two, it will be more than 35. Straightforward in favor of an LVH. Usually we get a tall R wave in V5, V6 which is more than 30 small square, straightforward in favor. Or you get a very deep S wave in V1 or V2, it is in favor of LVH. And when you add both of those, more than 35, you don't have to do any other criteria. So you can see here, V4, V5, V6, this is more than 30 small square. So straightforward in favor. Or if you add V1 S wave plus V4, V5 R wave, whichever is taller, it is LVH. Again, you can see here, there is a tall R wave, there is a deep S wave here. So if you add this S plus R, more than 35, straightforward. But this itself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 30 small square. This suggests that this is clear-cut LVH. And you can see that there is an ST depression with T wave inversion. This is called left ventricular hypertrophy with strange pattern. And you will also get a tall R wave in lead 1 and AVR, which is suggestive of left side lead. For a biventricular hypertrophy, it is little difficult, but we'll give you some points. If there is a left atrial enlargement pattern, means you have got a broad P wave, notch P wave, plus you have got a R wave, which is taller than S wave in V5, V6, and S wave in V5, V6 is more than 6 millimeter. And if there is a right axis deviation, it is in favor of biventricular hypertrophy. Or if there are both criteria for LVH and RVH, both are present together, means R wave in V1 and S wave in V5, V6 is more than 10, and R wave in V5, V6 and S wave in V1 is more than 35 small square, You don't need any other criteria. Or if there is an LVH plus there is a right axis deviation and there is a right atrial enlargement present, it is again in favor of a biventricular hypertrophy. Sometimes you do come across this, particularly in case of a dilated cardiomyopathy, or if there is a double valvular heart disease, you will get biventricular hypertrophy. Now, if you get a broad QRS complex with RS-R-dash pattern, and if it is RS-R-dash pattern in V1 and AVR, it is more in favor of right bundle branch block. And if you get a similar pattern in V5, V6, it is in favor of a left bundle branch block pattern. So do look for this particular. Now in a WPW syndrome, you will get a broad QRS. And if you get that in V1, but PR interval is short, and on the ascending limb, there is a notch, we call it a delta wave. This is WPW syndrome, or we call Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. And this is because of accessory bundle of Kent, which is commonly present in the left ventricle. So the impulse bypasses the AV node, and that gives rise to a short PR interval and a broad QRS complex. And this is classical, what we call as a WPW syndrome, which can give rise to atrioventricular re-entry tachycardia, we call AVRT, and that is supraventricular tachycardia, and that is very, very common. Do look for this whenever you see a short PR interval with a broad QRS complex and there is a notch on an ascending limb. There is another condition we call a Brugada syndrome, where in V1, V2 or up to V3, you will have a small R wave, a deep S wave, and then you have got an ST segment elevation. And from that ST segment elevation, you have got a sharp downstroke, followed by a negative T wave. This is negative or inverted T wave. Inverted T wave. It is in favor of what we call as a Brugada syndrome. And this Brugada syndrome people are more prone to develop cardiac arrhythmias, particularly ventricular fibrillation or polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, and sometimes they can have a sudden cardiac death. Do keep it in mind. There is a strong family history of sudden cardiac death earlier than 45 years of age. There is a curved, this is called curved ST elevation, and very frequently they develop a ventricular tachycardia on programmed electrical stimulation. They invariably complain of syncopal attacks, and they can have nocturnal agonal respiration because of these tachyarrhythmias, what they develop, and even they can go into ventricular fibrillation and sudden cardiac death. If you identify this early, you can prevent sudden cardiac death. This is Brugada syndrome. You can see here in V2. ST elevation. This is J point elevation. So it is elevated. This is the baseline. So it is elevated, and from there you got a downslope and T wave inversion. There are three types depending upon this downslope. Here this is like a saddle. You can see like a saddle. So these are the three different varieties. This is sharp downslope. Here downslope followed by upslope. Downslope, second upslope is bigger. So these are the three different varieties. This is most common. Type 1 is most common. Now there is one another thing which you can have an R wave. R wave can be prominent in AVR. Normally QRS complex is inverted. Whenever you get a R wave prominent in AVR, do look for dextrocardia. Most common. Another is if left arm and right arm is reversed. This is another very, very common and forgotten, and you misdiagnose as a dextrocardia. But to differentiate these two, you must utilize that the R wave amplitude goes on increasing in a normal person from V1 to V6, which will not happen in a case of a dextrocardia. So if you get an R wave prominent in AVR, and if you don't have a R wave progression from V1 to V6, instead of that R wave is tall in V1 and you got a less R wave in V5, V6, do suspect dextrocardia, and you will have a tall R wave in V3R, V4R, V5R and V6R. And once in a while, in a poisoning with sodium channel blocking medicines, you will have R wave height more than 3 small square in AVR, and R to S ratio will be more than 0.7. It will be in favor of poisoning with sodium channel blocking agents. Now there is what we call as, we are talking of an S wave. Normally in V3, S wave is equal to R wave. We call transitional zone. Now this will shift if the transitional zone shifts to the right side or shifts to the left side. But if you get a deep and broad S wave in V5, V6, it is definitely in favor of a right bundle branch block or in favor of an RVH. Opposite of that, if you get a deep S wave in V1, it is in favor of a LVH or left bundle branch block. And sometimes, if there is hardly any S wave, mainly a deep S wave or we call QS, there is no R wave at all and there is very poor R wave progression, it will be very common in an anterior wall infarction, recent or an old anteroseptal infarction. Do keep this thing in mind. So this is regarding an QRS complex. Now we are going through a broad QRS complex. Narrow QRS complex you will get in a sinus rhythm, atrial rhythm, AV nodal rhythm or junctional rhythm. In these three conditions, because it passes through a normal pathway, that is from AV node, bundle of His, activates septum, then it activates right bundle and left bundle, and then Purkinje system, that is ventricular wall, etc. So we'll have a normal QRS complex, which means less than 3 small square, but not more than 3 small square, or we call 0.12 second. So this you will get in a sinus rhythm, atrial rhythm, AV nodal rhythm, or we call as a junctional rhythm. But if you get a broad QRS complex which is more than 0.1 millisecond, it is considered as abnormal. But if it is more than 0.12 second, definitely we call as a broad QRS complex, which you get classical in case of a bundle branch block, that is right bundle branch block, left bundle branch block. You also get a wide QRS complex in hyperkalemia. You will have additional features. You can have sometimes in case of a tricyclic antidepressant, or we call sodium channel blocking agents, poisoning, if a person is consuming a tricyclic antidepressant. Also you will have a broad QRS complex in Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. If a person has got a pacemaker which is a ventricular pacemaker, in case of a hypothermia, and once in a while in case of an aberrant conduction, which can happen sometime, even if there is an impulse coming from SA node or from atria or from the junction, but in a ventricle it bypasses one of the bundle and produces intermittent aberrancy, or we call as an aberrant conduction, and good number of time it is a rate related aberrancy. This will produce a broad QRS complex. But if all the criteria of right bundle branch block and left bundle branch block are met with, but QRS complex duration is 0.1 second but not more than 0.12 second, then it is incomplete bundle branch block. So we'll be showing you all those things. So if QRS complex is more than 3 small square, you can see here this is more than 3 small square. It is right bundle branch block, left bundle branch block, pacemaker complex whenever the ventricular pacing is done, intraventricular conduction defect, we call as an aberrant conduction, etc. These are cardiac conditions. Extra cardiac condition, hyperkalemia, drugs like tricyclic antidepressants. In a ventricular ectopic rhythms, premature beat, escape beats, pace beats, idioventricular rhythms, etc. Ventricular tachycardia, in those also you will have a broad QRS complex. In Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome also you will have a broad QRS complex with a delta wave on a short PR interval. In a myocardial infarction also you can have, if myocardial infarction is associated, and particularly if it is on the anterior wall, anteroseptal myocardial infarction, good number of time QRS complex is little broad. In all ventricular rhythms, I already mentioned, ventricular premature beat, escape beats, ventricular tachycardia, idioventricular rhythm, accelerated idioventricular rhythm, etc. will also have a broad QRS complex. In Brugada syndrome and complete heart block, AV dissociation also, you will have a broad QRS complex. So there are a lot of conditions which will have a broad QRS complex. We'll cover up all those. You can see here, we already told you if it is between 0.1 to 0.12, this is incomplete left bundle branch block, incomplete bundle branch block. And if it is more than 0.12, it is bundle branch block or ventricular rhythm, Do remember this. So in bundle branch block, that is right bundle branch block, which can be complete or incomplete. Left bundle, again complete, incomplete. And in left bundle, you can have only one bundle block, that is anterior hemi block or anterior fascicular block, posterior hemi block or posterior fascicular block. Sometimes you can have a combination of right bundle branch block with any one of these. That means right bundle branch block with LAHB or LPHB. This is called bifascicular block. And when right bundle branch block is with one of these plus it has got an AV block, then we call trifascicular block. These are all permutation combination of a bundle branch block. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Now we are going through bundle branch block. So in lead 1, V1, if you get RSR dash pattern, where R wave is taller than S wave, and it is broad, and in V1, V6, lead 1 and V6, you've got a small Q wave, you've got a deep S wave, you can see that deep S wave. So RSR dash pattern in V1 with deep S wave in V6, almost it favors right bundle branch block. While in a left bundle branch block, in V1 you get a small R wave and deep S wave with T wave taller, and in V6, lead 1 and V6, you got a RS R dash pattern, second R wave is taller, and you got a T wave in opposite direction. There is no S wave here. You can see there is no S wave here. Even there is no Q wave here. It is in favor of left bundle branch block. This I will skip over. Sorry for interruption. Yes, now you can see here. In a left bundle branch block, you can see here. In lead 1, RSR dash pattern. Even in AVL also you will get a RSR dash pattern. And see in V5, V6, you got an RSR dash pattern. There is no Q wave. There is a T wave inversion which is in opposite direction. And there is no S wave at all. S wave is here. There is no deep S wave here. This is left bundle branch block. Clearly, don't forget this. Sometimes this is mistaken for ischemic heart disease, etc. Do keep it in mind. And all QRS complex is preceded by P wave. You can see all QRS complex is preceded by P wave. There is a P wave. There is a P wave here. There is a P wave. All QRS complex. Don't consider this as abnormal ischemic heart disease. Do remember this. Now I'll show you right bundle branch block. See in V1. This is small r, a deep S wave. Small r, a deep and broad S wave. Clear? Left bundle branch block. Now see right bundle branch block. In lead 1, you got a small R wave and deep S wave. Here in AVR you can see that there is first negative wave and then you got a nearly like RSR dash pattern. And in V1, small r first, negative wave S, and then second R wave is taller, RSR dash pattern. And see in V5, V6, there is a deep and broad S wave. Deep and broad S wave. This is in favor of right bundle branch block. Classical. So RSR dash pattern in V1, deep and broad S wave in V6, and you will get a R wave in AVR. You can get an R wave in AVR. And in lead 1, again there is a broad and deep S wave. Broad and deep S wave in lead 1. These are characteristics of right bundle branch block. I don't have to repeat again. This is good number of time again mistaken for ischemic heart disease because you can see here T wave is inverted. T wave is inverted. So good number of times this is mistaken as anteroceptor. You can see I've already shown you before that there is a short PR interval. You can see a short PR interval, and immediately on this ascending limb there is a delta wave. You can see this. This is a short PR interval. There is a delta wave here. So this is WP, Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. I've already discussed before. Now we'll be going through one another important part. This is a very common conditions, hyperkalemia, which you can come across very frequently in AKI, CKD, and particularly good number of time even if the person who is on ACE inhibitor, ARB together, whenever that is prescribed sometime together, chances of hyperkalemia is very common. Or even ARB is prescribed with a potassium retaining diuretics, quite common. And if ACE inhibitor and ARB are given in a person who is having CKD, this is another condition where you can develop a hyperkalemia. What is the peculiarity of hyperkalemia? You will have a small or absent P wave. Almost P wave start disappearing. ST segment is nearly absent, shorter. It becomes shorter and shorter. Sometimes you may see atrial fibrillation. You may see ventricular fibrillation. These are not common. This will be towards the end stage. But you will get a wide QRS complex. QRS complex will become wider and wider. And it will be along with tall and tented T wave. And when it combines together, we call that as a sine wave. We'll show you that. You can see here, this is a broad QRS complex. And see this ST segment is almost getting mixed with QRS and T wave. This is a tall T wave. You can see this is a tall T wave. This is a ST segment, which is getting merged with QRS complex and T wave slowly. And we'll show you a further one. And if you see here, hardly there is any P wave. So P wave becomes nearly absent. And when P wave is absent, you can't look at the PR interval. So you can see here, as the potassium level increases, initially see the QRS complex. Now this QRS complex is becoming wider. P wave which was present here disappears, and there is loss of P wave. QRS complex is becoming wider. ST segment is slightly elevated. Slowly, what happens? There is no P wave at all. The QRS complex is so wide and ST segment is merged inside and T wave also merged. This is called sine wave. And when this appears, this is a bad sign, because invariably this will end with cardiac arrest. So you can see here again, there is no P wave at all. There is a broad QRS complex. ST segment is merged inside with a T wave. So there is an absent P wave and sinusoid wave or sine wave we call. Here, P wave becomes flatter and flatter. PR interval gets prolonged. So PR interval is prolonged. P wave will disappear as it goes towards 9. There will be a tall T wave. QRS complex is broad. ST segment is hardly there is any ST segment, and then both merges together to become a sine wave. This is typical in a hyperkalemia. We'll have some ECG which will be showing you that hyperkalemia. Now, I've already told you in a Brugada syndrome, it is almost like a right bundle branch block with an ST elevation in V1, V2, which is a downsloping, sharp downsloping with T wave inversion. In Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, there is a broad QRS complex. Good number of time it is upright, depending upon the where the bundle of cant is present. If it is in a right bundle, right ventricle, it will show you left bundle branch block pattern. And if it is in the left ventricle, it will show you RBBB pattern. RBBB pattern in V1, V2, you will have a R wave, and in left bundle branch block, you will have a tall R wave in V5, V6. And I've already told you that also you will get in a tricyclic poisoning, or we call it a sodium channel poisoning, drugs poisoning, where you will get a wide QRS complex dominant in AVR. So if you get a tall R wave in AVR, you do suspect tricyclic poisoning. Now we are going through what we call as a QRS complex which are absent or not seen. Just we are revising. There is a P wave present or absent. Always look for that. Both are present, normal. If P wave is absent and QRS complex is present, there are some possibilities. P wave is present, P wave is absent, QRS complex is broad. So it will be ventricular complexes. Ventricular premature beat, idioventricular rhythm, accelerated idioventricular rhythm, ventricular tachycardia. There is no P wave, QRS complex is narrow, classical in supraventricular tachycardias. SVT, paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, atrial flutter, junctional rhythm, and junctional tachycardias, etc. We'll be showing you some of those. You can see here, P wave is not present, broad QRS complex, ventricular premature beat. We have already done before. This will be followed by a full compensatory pause. Sometimes, depending upon the variable coupling interval or a fixed coupling interval, this interval will change. This interval will change. Pulse will not be palpable, it will be a missed bits, and there will be apex pulse deficit. So P wave is absent, QRS complex is same. Here again, P wave is absent, QRS complex is same. This is idioventricular rhythm, no P wave, broad QRS complex, RR interval is constant, and rate is between 20 to 40 per minute. It is idioventricular rhythm. I'll be going little faster so we can finish it. Again same, you can see broad QRS complex, no P wave, rate between 20 to 40, this is around 30. So this is idioventricular rhythm, where P wave is absent, QRS complex is present. If same criteria are fulfilled, broad QRS complex, no P wave, RR interval is constant, but the rate is more than 40, less than 100, accelerated idioventricular rhythm. And if broad QRS complex, no P wave before, and rate is more than 100, ventricular tachycardia. If all QRS complex are of same shape, this is a 6-second strip, all QRS complex are same shape, monophasic, and we'll call sustain. We'll call sustain. Now you can see here, these are all narrow QRS complex, RR interval is constant. We can't see the P wave, you can't calculate the PR interval. There is no P wave, but all QRS complex are narrow. And there is a severe tachycardia, and if you consider the rate, it is more than 150 per minute. Straightforward, we can call that as a supraventricular tachycardia. So P wave is absent or you can't see, and QRS complex is present and narrow. All QRS complex are same, RR interval is same, and rate more than 150 in favor of supraventricular tachycardia. Again you can see this is atrial tachycardia, then rate becomes normal. This is for a short period, this is a 6-second strip, but this is for a short period. Again there is a normal rate, that's why this is called paroxysmal. And as it is coming from the atrium, you can see this normal atrial complexes. So this is paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, and rate is more than 150. That's why we call it as atrial tachycardia, because sinus rate cannot be this high. So this is not sinus tachycardia. Again you can see this, all are same, RR interval is same. This is supraventricular tachycardia, having rate more than 150 per minute, and QRS complex is normal. I can't make out where is the P wave. So this is supraventricular tachycardia. And this is paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, or we can call that as paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. Here you can see that there are no P wave seen, but you have got a QRS complex. So P wave is absent. But these are F wave, or we call fibrillatory wave. RR interval is irregularly irregular in favor of an atrial fibrillation. This is QRS complex is narrow, RR interval is constant, no P wave before. So this is junctional rhythm, and rate wise it is between 40 to 60. So this is normal junctional rhythm. Now we are coming to P wave is present, QRS complex is absent. Stokes-Adam attack, non-conducted AP Mobis type 1, Mobis type 2 AB block, You can see here, this is normal QRS complex which preceded by P wave. Here there are P waves but no QRS complex, no ventricular contraction, no blood supply to brain, person gets syncopal attack, or sometimes he even becomes unconscious and he can get seizures. If this continues for longer period, he can even have a sudden cardiac death. This is classical Stokes-Adam attack. This is called Stokes-Adam attack. Very, very classical. You can see normal sinus rhythm and suddenly you get a P wave but no QRS complex, no ventricular contraction. Means impulse is not transmitted to ventricle. All these P wave are not followed by QRS complex. And during this time person gets syncope. Here you can see one P wave not conducted to ventricle. This is called non-conducted premature atrial contraction because this has come early. This is RR interval. This is PP interval. So this should have come here, somewhere here. It has come early, but not followed by QRS complex. Hence, this is called non-conducted premature atrial contraction. So P wave is present, but there is no QRS complex. Again, you can see here in this first degree Mobis type 2. There is a P wave here. And suddenly this P wave is not followed by QRS complex. So here there will be no ventricular contraction. You will have no pulse and there will be no apex beat also. So apex will be absent and pulse will be also absent. So there will be no apex pulse deficit, but this is irregular. So usually in these conditions, we can get regularly irregular or sometimes we get irregularly irregular. See in a third degree AV block also. Sometimes you can come across this P wave. There are no QRS complex at all. You can see that there are no QRS complex. Once in a while you can get here. Is it clear? So this is because of ventricular escape. Ventricular escape. So these are P wave, no QRS complex. Then ventricle is escape and ventricle starts beating on its own. This is idioventricular rhythm. So this is a third degree AV block going into ventricular escape rhythm. Again you can see here PR interval is getting prolonged, that is Wenck-Beck phenomena or Mobis type 1. P wave, PR interval is getting prolonged and this P wave is not conducted. Again PR interval gets prolonged and then this again is not conducted. So this is not conducted, this is not conducted. So you got a P wave but not conducted to ventricle. This is because of the second degree AV block. We call Wenck-Beck or type 1, Mobis type 1, and this is Mobis type 2. In this you will, here all PR interval is constant and you got each P wave followed by QRS complex. Here P wave and QRS complex are equal. Now here you can see there are P wave, some P wave where there is no QRS complex. You got a P wave, there is no QRS complex. And you can see RR interval is changing. RR interval is changing. So here RR interval is irregularly irregular and P wave are more than QRS complex. This will very frequently happen if a person has got a high degree AV block. High degree AV block because P wave are more than QRS complex. High degree variable AV block. Now you can see here P wave is absent, QRS complex both are absent. And this thing will happen in a ventricular arrest or sinus arrest or very fine ventricular fibrillation. But usually ventricular fibrillation will have a little electrical activity. This is typical of sinus arrest or ventricular arrest. If it is following a ventricular complex, we call ventricular arrest. If it is following a sinus complex, we call sinus arrest. And if you can't find out what it is, you can use the word cardiac arrest also. Sometime also, if a pacemaker complex are there before, we can call total pacemaker failure. Here you can see a straight line. You can also call that as a standstill, or you can call asystole, or you can call as arrest. When you can't find out the previous complexes, we can use the word cardiac standstill, cardiac asystole, or cardiac arrest. This will be a straight line. Don't forget one another condition. If the cable are not connected or there is a broken cable, it can give you a straight line. Do keep it in mind. Again here, you can see both are absent, ventricular or systolic. See here, normal normal sinus beat. During this particular period, there is no P wave, no QRS complex. So you'll call that as a sinus arrest, or you can call it as a sinus pulse, or you can call even as a sinoatrial block. In a sinoatrial block, this will be multiple of RR, or we call multiple of PP. But in case of a sinus arrest, it is not exactly the multiple of RR. This is the way you try to differentiate. So here both are absent. This is sinoatrial block. You can see both are absent, and this will be exactly multiple of RR. So that is how you make out a sinoatrial exit block. Here you can see a pacemaker complex. This is the pacemaker complex. This is a small pacemaker complex, and then there is no QRS complex at all. That means the pacemaker has failed. So it is a failure of pacemaker. Now you can see here this is a ventricular complex followed by electrical activity, but you can't make out a P wave QRS complex at all. This is a coarse ventricular fibrillation. VT has become VF, and then you get a ventricular standstill, or we call ventricular arrest, etc. Again, you can see here similar ventricular tachycardia followed by a ventricular fibrillation. Both are absent, P and QRS complex, and this is the last slide. Understand here you can see a normal P wave QRS complex. You can see this on monitor, but there is no pulse, blood pressure is not recordable, and person is not having ventricular fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia. And still if you see normal QRS complex, which is showing you a sinus rhythm, that is pulseless electrical activity. We also call that as electrical activity is there. There is no contraction of ventricle. That's why there is no pulse, no blood pressure. So we call electrical mechanical dissociation. So this is pulseless electrical activity, which is an emergency, and it should be treated because person can have sudden cardiac death. So no PQRST, no VTVF, no ventricular arrest, and you see a QRS complexes. QRS complexes are present. No VT, no ventricular fibrillation, no arrest. This is called pulseless electrical activity. I end my lecture here, and I hope this will be very helpful to you.